Hey everyone, so we're going to talk about how to use our graphing calculator to find the vertex as well as x-intercepts of quadratic functions. Now, on your notes, you do have the instructions, so like finding the vertex on the graphing calculator, you can see that right here, and then as same thing as finding x-intercepts on the graphing calculator. So definitely like if you kind of forget how to do this at home, go back into your notes and read the instructions and follow them. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at our problems here. So we're going to find the vertex and the x-intercepts using our graphing calculator. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's do example 6 together. So we have y equals negative 2x squared minus 10x minus 5. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug this function into our graphing calculator. So make sure your graphing calculator is on. So plugging this in, remember to plug in functions, we're going to go to the y equals. So you're going to press the y equals button. And then you're going to go in and plug this in. So remember, we're going to do negative 2. So make sure you use the negative. If you use minus, it's going to say error. So negative 2. Then you're going to press the x key, which is right by alpha. So you're going to press the x. Then we want the squared. And then we're going to do minus 10x. So this is where you'll do the minus. If you do negative, it's going to think you're multiplying instead of just subtracting. And we're going to do our x again, and then minus 5. Now, if we need to just check to see, if our graph is in that standard window of negative 10 to positive 10 on both the x and y axes, I'm going to press zoom. So remember, zoom is at the very top here. And I'm going to go down to number 6 where it says z standard. And this is going to graph our function on that negative 10 to positive 10. So there we go. We got that. Now, the first thing is we're going to find the vertex. Now, as we talked about, vertex can be the max or the minimum, so the highest or the lowest point. So when we look at our function here, there you go. When we look at our function, notice our graph is opening down. That means our vertex is at the very top. And so because it's at the very top, that means our vertex is a maximum. So that's probably make sure we note that, because we need to know that in order to find this vertex. So here's how we're going to find our vertex. We're going to press second, so the blue button, and trace. So we've gone to this place before, so second trace. Now, notice as stated, we're trying to find the vertex. We're going to figure out, because it is a maximum, we're going to go to number 4. So our vertex is a max because it's at the very top. So we're going to go to number 4. Now, it's going to say left bound and right bound. What left bound means is we want to get this cursor on the left-hand side of our graph. That's what left bound means. So you can only use your left and right arrows. Up and down will not work. So right now, my cursor's on the right-hand side. I need to move it over, and so I'm going to use my left arrow to move it over. Now, you just need the cursor on the left-hand side of your graph. So that means really on the left-hand side of your vertex. If you're right on the vertex or if you are on the wrong side, it's going to say error. So I have my cursor somewhere on the left, doesn't matter where, just somewhere on the left, and I'm going to press enter. Now it's going to ask for a right bound. That means I need to get my cursor on the right-hand side of my graph here. So once again, right-hand side of the vertex. Now remember, I can only use the left and right arrows, so I'm going to use my right arrow key, get the cursor on the right hand. Doesn't matter where you put it. You just want it on the right-hand side. I'm going to press enter. Now, this is not your final answer. We must press enter for another time. So you're pressing enter for a total of 3 times. Press it one more time, and it should say the word maximum. So if you don't see the word maximum, you did this incorrectly. Okay, we have maximum, and here's our point. So we're going to write this as an ordered pair. Our x is negative 2.5, and our y is 7.5. So that is our vertex. Okay, now let's go in and talk about the x-intercepts. So remember, x-intercepts is where the graph crosses the x-axis. So we can kind of see for the same function where it crosses, okay? So now we're going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to go to the same place. We're going to press second and the trace key. Now, another name for x-intercepts is 0. So we're going to go to number 2 where it says 0. That's just another name we call x-intercepts. And we're going to press enter. Now, we're going to actually have to do this twice because we have 2 x-intercepts. Well, I'm going to go ahead and find the leftmost x-intercept. Now, I'm going to go ahead and sketch this to help us figure out how do we use the graphing calculator to find the x-intercept. Let me do this. I'm going to go back. Okay. So our graph is kind of like goes through this here. Okay. So we have this x-intercept we're going to find. Now, once again, it's going to ask for a left bound, a right bound, and then we got to press enter. Now, left and right don't necessarily, I mean, it does mean left side and right side, but this one's a little bit trickier because we don't just have a left side and a right side. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw an imaginary line going through my x-intercept. Here's my imaginary line. Now, left bound means I want my cursor on the left-hand side of this imaginary line, okay? And so that also means on the left-hand side of the x-intercept. Well, where my left-hand side is on this graph is actually below the x-intercept. So right here, this is considered the left bound on our x-intercept. So what that means is I need to get my cursor below the x-intercept, below the x-axis. So once again, I'm going to have to use my left arrow key to get my cursor below. So it doesn't matter where, you just need it below the x-intercept. So I have it below, I'm going to press enter. Right bound is going to be the opposite. So right bound means we're going to have our cursor above the x-axis. Okay, so that's going to be my right bound. Now, you do not want this cursor on the other side because it will not work. You just want your cursor somewhere above the x-axis or above the x-intercept. So once again, sorry, notice I use my up arrow. Can't do that. You got to use the right arrow key to move it over. So you want the cursor above. Don't put it on actually the right-hand side because it's not going to calculate it correctly. Put it somewhere above the x-axis, so somewhere between your vertex and x-intercept. That's where you want your cursor. So press enter. Then don't forget, you got to press enter one more time, and then it'll say the 0. So we have x. Here, for our sake, we'll just round to 2 decimal places. And remember, your x-intercept, the y should always be 0. So we have negative 4.440 as our answer. Now, here's the thing. We got to do that whole thing again because we got another x-intercept. So I'm going to do second trace. I go once again to number 2 for 0. And then we got to once again do left and right bound. Now, this is going to be different from what we just did. That's where it gets tricky because you're going to have differences. So left bound, so here's our x-intercept right here. Left bound in this case is not going to be, because if I draw my imaginary line, left bound is not going to be below the x-axis. Instead, on this side, left bound is going to be above the x-axis. So it always switches. So depending on which x-intercept you're finding and which way the graph is facing, it will switch. So if I draw my imaginary line, the left-hand side is above the x-intercept. So I need to have my cursor above the x-intercept. So I'm going to use my right arrow key to do that. Remember, you want it on this right side because we're finding this right x-intercept. So don't have it on the other side. Make sure you have it here. And I'm going to press enter. Right bound means I'm going to have it as the opposite. So my cursor is going to be below the x-intercept. Okay. So I'm going to use my right arrow key to get it somewhere below. Remember, it doesn't matter where. You just want it below. Press enter. And then make sure you press enter for the last time. And then here's our other x-intercept. So we have negative 0.56. And remember, your y value should be 0. Okay, 5.6. I have to remember what it was. Okay, so that is our x-intercept there. So our 2 x-intercepts. Okay, so now what I'm going to have you guys do, I want you to pause the video and I want you guys to try this next one. So I'm going to have you find the vertex and the x-intercepts of the x squared minus 6x plus 4. Go ahead and try it. Okay, let's see what you got. So I'm going to kind of go through this. So let's figure out our vertex. So let's graph this function into our calculator. So we go to y equals, I'm going to clear this. So remember, just press clear to get rid of that. We have x squared, was it minus, I'm going to put it over here so then I can see it. There we go. Minus 6x and then plus 4. And then once again, well, we really don't need to do zoom, but you can do that. I'm going to press zoom, go to number 6, so we're in the z standard. Okay, we see where our vertex is, so we're good. Okay, so notice our graph is opening up, so that means my vertex is at the lowest point. Because it's at the lowest point, we're trying to find a minimum in this case. So you're trying to find the minimum. So I go to second trace. I go to number 3 this time. Now, left bound means I need my left cursor on the left-hand side of the graph or the left-hand side of the vertex. I'm already there, so I can press enter. But I do need to use my right arrow key to get my cursor on the right-hand side. So make sure you go past the vertex and somewhere on the right-hand side of your graph, press enter. Don't forget to press enter for a third time. You don't want to see guess. You want to see minimum. Okay, so here we get to round up since we're rounding to 2 decimals. So our x is 3, our y is -5. Let's write that. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and talk about the x-intercepts. Now, when we look, notice once again there's 2 x-intercepts, so we're going to have to do this twice. I'm going to go ahead and sketch the graph of this really quick to kind of help us out to find the left and right bound and all that sorts. There we go. And so here's our 2 x-intercepts. So I'm going to go ahead and find this leftmost x-intercept. I'm going to draw my imaginary line, and let's think about the left bound. So remember, left bound means I want the left-hand side of this imaginary line. That means my left bound is above the x-intercept or x-axis. So let me go ahead. What I need to do is go to second trace. Got to go to 0, which is number 2 here. And I'm going to move, because I'm doing left bound, move my cursor. Make sure you use the left key or left arrow. And I need to put the cursor somewhat above the x-axis or the x-intercept. Don't have it below, okay, right there. Now, right bound means the opposite. I'm going to move the cursor just slightly below the x. So I'm right there. I need to do it again. Maybe one more. There we go. So make sure it's on the right-hand side. Don't put it on the right-hand side of the graph, just on the right-hand side of the x-intercept. So don't go past the vertex. Press enter one more time, and we get this. So we got 0.760. So that's one of our x-intercepts. And so that means when we do the other one, it's going to reverse. I'm going to draw my imaginary line. To find the second x-intercept, we're going to have to find the left bound. In this case, the left-hand side of this imaginary line is below the x-axis. So that's going to be our left bound. So I'm going to place my cursor. So once again, I need to do second trace. I need to go to 0. And then I need to place my cursor below that x-intercept, below it. If you have it on the other side, it's going to say error. It's not going to work. So make sure this is below it, but past the vertex. So somewhere here is good. Now, right bound means I just place it above the x-axis or above the x-intercept. This is good. Press enter. Press enter one more time, and we should get this. So we get 5.240. So I'm just going to put it up here. That is our second x-intercept. Okay. There we go. Okay, so that's our vertex, that's our x-intercepts. That's how we find the vertex and x-intercepts using the graphing calculator. See you guys later. Bye.